It started, coinage banned across the US. Hold on to your silver. This is from Coin World magazine. And check this out. The article states the cost to produce the 1 cent piece rose to 3 cents per unit. That's a 12% annual increase from 2022, a cost of 2 cents per unit back then. Now, the 5 cent pieces production cost rose to 11 cents per unit. And that's a 10% increase from the previous year. The cost that it takes to produce US coinage presently, especially these small denominations, 1 cent and 5 cent, it's ridiculous. There's really no use for this coinage anymore. This article continues. It says, these increases have led to an estimated negative seigniorage of $178 million based on the 4.5 billion cents and 1.4 billion nickels produced in 2023. The increase in production costs can be attributed to fluctuations in the value of copper, of course, and the value of zinc and the quantity produced. It directly impacts the cost. However, 2023 marks the 18th consecutive year that a considerable deficit has been created as a result of minting coins with a lower face value than their actual minting costs. A lower face value than their actual costs to produce these. Nobody's using these pennies and nickels anymore. It's ridiculous. And we're not the only country going through this. There are many countries, actually just north of us, Canada, swapped out their coinage, and it actually absolutely worked to their benefit. So let's continue. This article says, as purchasing power parity of the cent has decreased over time, the lower denomination's utility has been directly impacted. In fact, in 2006, it was estimated that the 1 cent piece was worth only an eighth of its value in 1950. Now, we're often talking about the dollar using value. The cent and the nickel is just, it's in the same league. This decrease in utility can be observed further due to the lower denomination's weaker circulation velocity. That means basically nobody's using it, right? The penny and the nickel are not being used. In fact, many people literally throw pennies in the garbage. And this has been going on for quite some time. We spend here in our silver stacking community, those of us who've been stacking silver and especially stacking junk silver, the thought of throwing metal away is heresy. It's absolute heresy. But this is really going on. I mean, it's not being used. Now, even the dollar, I mean, we tried to swap out the dollar banknote in the U.S. years ago for the Susan B. Anthony, and that did not work, mainly because the Susan B. Anthony is so similar to a quarter. It just frustrated the public. It was just a terrible design, and it ruined, unfortunately, the idea of swapping out the dollar. Now, what really should have happened is the dollar banknote should have been pulled out entirely. They should have ceased creating the dollar banknote, and then people would be forced to use, of course, the Susan B. Anthony. But that didn't happen, and that is what happened in Canada. In Canada, when they took out a denomination, they removed the old one. That's what you have to do. The public needs to be forced into using it. So let's continue with this article. It says, substituting a dollar coin for the dollar note has the potential to save American taxpayers $5.5 billion over the next 30 years. Metal coins have a significantly longer lifespan, of course, than banknotes, as coins wear more slowly and can be recycled more efficiently than paper bills. The Government Accountability Office estimates that switching to dollar coins exclusively would save American taxpayers around $184 million yearly. Listen to that again. They estimate that switching to dollar coins exclusively would save American taxpayers around $184 million a year, primarily due to the cost value difference. And when comparing coins to notes, dollar notes must be printed on entirely new blank paper stock. That's why the recycling issue is so clear. It has to be on entirely new blank paper stock with 90% of the initial notes ending up in landfills. This government office states, with over $1 billion coins in storage, Congress is in a position to turn a wasteful legislative mistake into a head start for the transition to dollar coins. Now, the dollar coin does not does not concern me as much, and the dollar bill does not concern me as much as the penny and the nickel. If they do actually become pulled from circulation, or they just stop minting the penny or the nickel, that's the time for us to cash in. And when I say cash in, I mean start hoarding pennies and nickels, because it's only a matter of time until this absolutely comes into play. And that's how collectors make all their money. When they see a denomination is being taken out, they're not producing it anymore, you start hoarding and collecting that denomination. And you save it. It's just like silver stacking, right? Because collectors are going to be looking to collect this coin that is no longer in circulation. Now, what really comes into play is called cash rounding. And we don't use that phrase often here in the States, but cash rounding, also known as Swedish rounding, this is according to this article in CoinWorld, it says, also known as Swedish rounding, is when a cash-based transaction is rounded to the nearest lowest denomination currency available. So for us, it would be rounding to the nickel, right? Instead of having any cents, nothing would be 97 cents anymore. Nothing would cost 12 cents. Everything would be rounded down either to a dime or up to 15 cents. Unless the nickel's removed also, then it would just be rounded to the dime. So this article says, economists argue that the United States would save money by eliminating the cent and implementing cash rounding. Without cents in circulation, all cash-based transactions will be rounded to the nearest 5-cent interval. An economist named Richard Lombra was hired by the American for Common Sense, a lobbying group, to conduct an economic study on the effects of cash rounding in the United States. Lombra's research focused on cash-based transactions from convenience stores. By analyzing their price books, he concluded that there would be an estimated $600 million per year in additional costs for taxpayers if the cent was removed. That's just the cent. Just if you take the cent out and everyone is forced to round up to a nickel or down to a dime, there'll be an additional cost of $600 million. That's the negative impact of pulling these pennies out. But if it does come to play, again, as silver stackers and those of us who have been hoarding metals for years anyway, the idea of these pennies and these nickels being pulled out of circulation, that tells me to go all in and just start hoarding pennies. I mean, really, I wouldn't hoard anything like that's really worn down and junk, but anything that's in good shape, I think this is the time to start looking at those and setting them aside, because it is just a matter of time until they are pulled out of circulation. Nobody can argue that they're using pennies. Nobody's using pennies. Everything is digital anyway. I even started using my app on my phone instead of my debit card to pay for things lately. I mean, that's how it's done, right? So the idea of a penny and a nickel is just, it's ancient, and there's no way that it's going to last. There's absolutely no way. Any economy that is literally throwing away coinage, just chucking it in the garbage because there's no utility. There's just no utility. That tells us that it's absolutely time to move on.